let us record, and we'll go into today's Tanya. Okay. So we've been talking about the different levels of love and meditation to create and make love within ourselves to Hashem. Let's go through some of the recent levels of love that we've been talking about. So we're holding, let me just find it here. For a couple of days, we caught up in Chumash Baruch Hashem. We're catching up in Tanya now too. We're going to hold Monday. Today's Thursday, but we're holding Monday's lesson in Tanya. We're starting chapter 48 in Tanya. God willing, we'll catch up. I really hope we'll be able to do that. But thank God, Chumash we caught up today. Tanya, we're catching up. Okay. So we spoke about in chapter 46 and 47, right? We're going to start 48. 46, we spoke about a way to get passionate and love for Hashem is to realize how much Hashem loves you. Because when one person shows tremendous love for another, you automatically start to love that person. Then chapter 47 took that idea and said, well, that didn't just happen when we left Egypt, but it even happens every day because our souls are slaves in our body. We don't choose, right? We didn't choose which body we get. We don't choose the hang-ups we have, the talents, the skills, and the difficulties we have. And our soul is stuck there, though, against its will and against its choice. So Hashem saves us every day. Whenever you do a mitzvah, you're becoming literally one with Hashem, and Hashem is saving you. And when you think about that, when you do the mitzvah, you become very passionate about doing the mitzvah because Hashem loves you, wants to marry you, wants to be with you, wants to connect with you. That's all He wants. And by doing the mitzvah, you get to make that happen and save yourself from your soul suffering inside the body. And he continues on with that point, and chapter 48, and he's going to talk about how God's greatness is beyond creation. And Hashem lowered himself down all the way into this world just to have a relationship with us. And we're continuing on that theme of the greatness of Hashem and how much he contracted himself just to be with us. We're going to continue that line of thought about what Hashem has done for us to connect with us, to be with us, thereby creating a love us back to Hashem. We're going to continue on the way of thought. So we're going to start today's Tanya with talking about the greatness of Hashem. Okay, here we go. Again, we're in the 10 chapters of Tanya to talk about the different meditations to create a love for Hashem. And behold, Kasha Yizbain and Amaskil, when the intellectual thinking person will start to meditate and think, and how great the infinite God, Hashem, the infinite Hashem is. Just like we're describing him as infinite, endless, limitless, that's what God is. That's the truth about God. There's no end, right? Every physical thing in life has a beginning and has an end, has a defined time period, and has a defined location. God is totally out of our world in that sense, is that he doesn't have a beginning, he doesn't have an end, he doesn't have a place. Hashem is the real idea of what we want to call infinite, endless. La'or v'chayus, to his light and his life, the energy, hamispashet bimena, that comes out of him. So the life and the energy, the vitality that comes out of Hashem is infinite. B'ratzei na pashut, that is Baruch Ratzei pashut, with his simple will. Simple meaning that it's not details in our physical world, how we know. And the energy and the light that comes out of Hashem is totally one with Hashem, with the perfect unity. So Hashem and the energy coming out of him, the light coming out of Hashem. See, the light starts from the sun, but the sun was created at some point and started somewhere. The light comes out of the sun. But Hashem was not created at any point. Hashem always existed. And the light and the energy that naturally comes out of Hashem, that's flowing out of Hashem, is infinite. It will just go endless, won't stop anywhere, and just continues to go and exist. So that if the world would have been created from that light and that energy that comes out of the endless Hashem, then our world, right, without being contracted, without having limitations to that light, just natural cause and effect coming out. What's an example of cause and effect? So your mind and your speech. So your mind wants to speak something, and your mouth can speak all the things that are in your mind. Now, your mind is much more spiritual than your speech, because wherever the mind is, where those words and those letters are in the mind, they're obviously much more refined than the speech. But yet, it's still an outcome, it's still an outgrowth of speech from the mind. So it's still more spiritual, but it's a natural flow and evolution of the mind to the speech coming out. It makes sense how it works. Whatever the science of it, whatever you want to call it, the flow of speech from mind makes sense. One's more spiritual than the other, but they're natural cause and effect. But the problem is that, see, your mind, it's still limited. So the speech is limited and the mind is limited. So the mind's a little more infinite, but they're both limited in essence. So it makes sense how from something limited will come something more defined, more limited. So it was already defined, and now something more defined will come out of it. Fine, we could work with that, we could do that. However, the problem is that with Hashem, it was never defined. It was always infinite. Like, and if this is the way that the world would be created from Hashem, from the infinite energy of God, then our world wouldn't exist as we know it with any definition, because there was no definition to stand with. So something that had a definition and I could sort of move off that definition and get it more defined, fine. But something that had no definition to begin with, how do you get definitions of something that's limited and get more details out of it if it never had details to begin with? Our world will never be created as a limited world. Like, we all think in boxes. Like, our mind thinks about limited things. We're able to discuss limited ideas. But if I wanted to share with you infinite, I couldn't think infinite. I couldn't speak infinite. It wouldn't be something possible. So had the infinite energy of Hashem created the world without being contracted, our world wouldn't exist as we know it. Doesn't matter how big it is, it's really not infinite, because the essence of infinite is that it's not defined at all. So even though like our world is so big, our universe, our galaxies, and there's so much to it, there's still a number to it. It's not infinite. So you'll find a planet, I don't know how far away, a galaxy, I don't know how far away, but the fact is it's not infinite, because that world that you'll find that sun that you'll see up there has a limited amount of energy. It's not infinite, because you wouldn't be able to see it if it was infinite. So even though our world is so big, as he brings here, that from the land, earth to the sky, it would take 500 years to walk from the earth to the sky. He's trying to give you like a distance. And from one heaven to the next heaven, the physical heaven to walk, is another 500-year walk. And the thickness of each, even though our galaxy and our universe is so big, the fact is it's still limited, because it's still defined. It's made out of certain material, it's made out of certain minerals, it still has like a gravity pull, whatever it is, or doesn't have, it's still defined in the essence of what it is, and it still exists in a certain point of time. But he wants to argue that not just is all these galaxies in our universe, even Gan Eden, even the world to come, which we're going to say is a spiritual world relative to our physical world. Mad and Neshamas, the souls are there, tzaddikim of the great holy tzaddikim, Agdoilim and Neshamas Atzman, and souls are there. And who's even talking about angels, which are considered spiritual creations? The fact is, they're still limited. They're defined. They're defined with maybe a name, and they have a personality, maybe, or they have a certain power, a certain energy. They're still defined in the spiritual realm as energy. And there's a limited amount of how much of God they understand and grasp within their limited mind. They might be much more brilliant than regular humans, but they're still defined within their thing. Which God, they grasp God with God and is shining on them through. They use also chacham v'nadas, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. They still use those tools, limited tools that we have. And therefore, it's limited how much pleasure they get from Hashem, because they're limited. Because they can't get directly open the faucet of infinite into them, because they'll become nothing. If a physical creation defined in any way will somehow tap into the energy of infinite, it would instantly disappear and not be able to exist. And that is today's Tanya. The meditation on today's Tanya is to meditate on the greatness of Hashem and how to get here, to have a relation with God. You know what God had to do? He had to literally hide himself and condense himself and make contractions because he loves us so much and he wants to have a relationship. That's why he's going through all this stuff just to have a relationship with us, and that's how much he loves us, and therefore that should awaken a love from us to Hashem. We'll continue with this idea in Tanya tomorrow. Any questions or comments on today's Tanya? No? Okay. Tomorrow